For example, let's say I explain that someone is behaving improperly due to a difficult fate. I first accept their behavior. Acceptance means understanding that it's my fate, not theirs. If I live with this person, it means that at some point I acted similarly. I try to process this, I accept it, which means I stop being an enemy to them. When I become their friend, I can change them or even reprimand them. To reprimand someone in a way they understand, you must first become their friend. For example, for a mother to reprimand her child effectively, she must first be kind and accepting. Suppose the child gets an F. You shouldn't scold them immediately. First, you need to calm down and understand that it's not a big deal. Everything will be fine. Then start talking to the child. Why did you get an F? It's not a big deal. Tell me what happened. Try to understand if they are going through a difficult time and struggling to study, or if they don't want to, or if they are upset with the teacher. What happened? You need to figure it out. Then the mother gradually explains or stops talking to them as a form of punishment, but always in a kind way. Until a person accepts, they cannot act kindly, and this means they cannot move the situation forward. Such a person cannot be victorious. Even when fighting an enemy, you must act kindly, otherwise you'll lose control. You won't be able to manage your emotions. To defeat an enemy, one must first be noble. First accept their right to fight, to struggle, to harm. Only then can you reprimand them for infringing on your rights. This is the path of the strong ones. There's also a weaker path where a person doesn't accept but immediately begins to fight, turning a close person into an enemy. As a result, when the goal is love between a husband and wife or friendship, the outcome is the opposite: less friendship and more hostility. What was achieved? Nothing. This idea that acceptance equals losing comes from a misunderstanding of what acceptance means. If I accept and enter a state of humiliation, agreeing with everything that happens, then you're right. That's wrong. But if I accept not because I agree with what's happening, but because it's my fate and I agree with my fate, recognizing that I'm being tested, then I start becoming a victor. This is the path of the strong. Interestingly, when I talk about this, you might feel a kind of tension inside, a heaviness. This bitter taste always precedes the sweet. If you accept the person, you'll find yourself calm and benevolent around them. Gradually, they will begin to trust you, open their hearts, and tell you, this is what's going on. When my wife does something wrong in life, I spend a long time trying to accept it first. I accept, and then I do accept. At first, she doesn't even realize she's doing something wrong. Well, if he's not resisting, then everything must be fine, she thinks. But since I don't indulge it, I don't dance to her tune, I simply say, okay, fine, it is what it is, no big deal. Later, she comes to me and says, maybe I'm doing something wrong. She tells me herself. And I say to her, no, everything's fine, you'll figure it out gradually. I don't say she's bad. I say, you'll learn over time. She feels reassured, knowing I understand that it's not right, but still treats her calmly and kindly. Then she starts enthusiastically changing for the better. That's the process. Step 1 is acceptance. Step 2 is relaxing the close person. Step 3 is activating their conscience. Step 4 is supporting them in their changes and corrections. But there are exceptional cases, for instance, if a close person decided to cheat and has cheated. In such a case, I accept my fate but keep my distance from them. I show them that we will continue living together, but our intimate relationship is over because they chose to have an intimate relationship with someone else. If I maintain an intimate relationship with them, I would be behaving like a prostitute, and I don't want to be a prostitute, so I just live with them and take care of them. And they can decide for themselves how to live further. Gradually, the person sobers up and begins to understand that this is no way to live, deceiving and cheating on a close one. Eventually, they repent and choose the right path. Meanwhile, you are working through your own fate because this situation was given to you specifically to help you deal with your issues. If you could see your past, if you could see how you broke down in a male body in a previous life, you'd understand why this situation has been given to you. If you could see how your wife suffered and endured what happened to you, you'd realize that every person receives only what they themselves have done before. People always find themselves in situations they once created. This is how life is structured. But understanding and seeing this is not easy. You need to be very attentive and study these processes and laws. At first, a person must simply trust someone who already understands. You see, I told you that I already understood the situation before you explained it to me. I know what's happening. I know that this person is behaving wrongly. But still, there's nothing you can do about it. If you try to crush him now, he'll just leave the family. Not to go to someone else, but simply to escape and somehow cope with the situation, because life is very hard for him right now. He's going through a very bad period. Naturally, this affects you because when a close person has a bad period, it becomes your bad period as well. But it feels like, why me? I'm normal, but they're not. Sometimes bad periods don't act directly through us, but through our close ones. Those are also our bad periods, and they must be accepted. Otherwise, you'll just lose the person. Your difficulty lies in confusing humiliation with acceptance. Humiliation is not acceptance. When a person is humiliated, they never truly accept. Moreover, I'll tell you that if you want to live a long life, you'll have to overcome feelings of resistance when, for example, running or fasting. At first, you won't want to run or fast, but then you'll overcome this resistance. It may feel like humiliation, but in reality, it's just a victory over destiny. Or when I clean a dirty kitchen, I must humble myself to start cleaning it, but then I make it clean and fresh. We need to understand that there's no humiliation in working on our destiny. It's simply rolling up your sleeves and getting to work on yourself. But most people don't want to roll up their sleeves. They follow the idea of why get dirty, just drop it, why suffer? Life is beautiful and amazing. And by the way, the problem is that modern psychology supports this. They say, don't worry about it. If your close one is struggling, don't stress over it. Just keep your distance and let them deal with their problems themselves. They don't understand that it's not just their problem, it's my problem too. Their destiny is my destiny. On the other hand, excessive closeness burns a person out. The right distance is one where you can preserve yourself. That's another topic for discussion. Never endure excessive suffering in relationships. Now your questions. Yes, please, you go ahead.
It's incredible that I managed to attend your lecture. Over 3 years of listening to your lectures, a foundation has formed within my soul. A strong, good foundation that wasn't there before. Right now, I'm going through a tough period in life. It's been so hard, like the ground was slipping away from under my feet. But my soul keeps saying, everything will be fine. I couldn't follow all your advice. My family fell apart. My husband left for someone else, and I didn't stop him. I didn't fight for him.
You can't stop someone. How could you? He's unhappy. He's bathing in sweet filth. He thinks it's honey, but it's not honey. He believes he's immersed in sweet nectar. It only seems that way to him. What is sweet can only be what is pleasing to God. Anything that goes against God is always a punishment. All the deadliest poisons have a sweet taste. Cyanide is sweet, but leads to death. When a moth flies towards a lamp, its greatest joy is the light. The moth is ecstatic about the light. As it flies toward the light, it thinks, oh, this is amazing, just amazing. Then it gets burned and dies. Fish experience immense pleasure from taste. Humans can't enjoy flavor as much as fish do. It makes them tremble with delight. When a fish bites into a delicious worm, even if it pricks, the fish thinks, I have to try it again. It's so tasty. Eventually it ends up caught on a hook. For humans, the sweetest thing is sex. They climb onto this hook, unaware of what's to come. They only care about the present moment. This happens because with age, a person must realize that there's something higher than infatuation. There is God, there is purity. With age, a person should come to this understanding and grow stronger than sexual desire. If they don't become stronger, they fall into the trap of fate. On one hand, they give their close ones an opportunity to improve and become stronger, but on the other hand, they themselves fall into the trap of fate. The scheme is as follows. First, I fall deeply in love and become dependent on the person. Then, the person I depend on becomes proud of themselves. Within 4 years, that woman will cruelly leave your husband. If he's not a fool, he will return to you.
What should I do all this time?
You don't have to wait. You can find someone else during this time. He left you. Wait for a while. Set a time frame.
I don't want to wait for him at all.
That's not your choice to make. You don't have the right. Otherwise, you'll be abandoning him and will be held accountable for it. Tell him, I'm giving you 6 months. I'll wait for you for 6 months. Wait. Don't meet or communicate with anyone else. You're saying this before God. You don't understand that you're being punished for your past actions. You're being punished and must serve your sentence. You have to endure for 6 months. Set the time frame. Write him a letter and say, I can forgive you. You can come back. You have 6 months. If he returns, forgive him. People are very foolish. Don't treat sexual relations as something sacred. Humans are foolish beings. He fell under the influence, his mind was clouded, and he got carried away. This happens to everyone. If you judge him, you'll fall into the same trap. If someone judges, they'll have to take the same test later. I would never do what he did. If you think this way, God records it, tests you, and gives you the same situation. Most likely you'll fall into the trap and won't manage. There's a sign of someone who can handle it. They don't judge. They know how hard it is to cope, so they don't judge. For example, if someone fell through the ice but managed to get out, they won't judge someone else who didn't make it. They understand they barely escaped themselves. How could they judge another? Let me tell you something. You betrayed someone's feelings. You refused to dedicate your life to them.
My husband was my only one all my life. I never loved anyone before him.
Let's check. Yes, this isn't from this life. Everything happening now is deserved. Thank you for working on yourself. It's very hard for you right now. I understand. People live for purity, not for filth. Living with filth is unbearable, but no one forces you to. Just fulfill your duty. Wait for the person to return. Afterward, you can live separately until they repent. There are various options. The main thing is never to be proud of yourself. Get out of here. I don't want you to return. That's pride. Why think this way? Don't. If you behave strongly, you'll become so strong that no one will ever be able to betray you. Become strong. The lady in the back with the light-colored hat. She's reached a breaking point, a stage of collapse. She needs to realize she's been living incorrectly.
How can I help her?
First, help yourself. You need to calm down. If you're anxious, it means you're not coping with your fate. Focus on helping yourself first. What does she have to do with it? This is your fate. Help yourself. Start with calmness. Being worried means you don't have enough strength. You're relying on your own resources. There are two options. Either I give away my own limited energy, which I don't have enough of, or I forget about myself and focus on God, and then God helps her. When I start worrying, it means my own strength is insufficient. I must activate the forces that can truly help. If I'm treating a loved one and see that it's not helping, I call for help, like dialing an ambulance. God is like that emergency service. He can assist with his energy. To activate this, you need to stop focusing on her and think about God. When you think of him, he begins to help. Worrying is a sign of weakness and ignorance in the soul. To worry means to be lazy with your soul. One mother blesses her son, saying, I will pray for you. You will survive. And he goes to war. Another mother worries. The one who worries loses her child. The one who prays saves him. Worrying indicates weakness, an unwillingness to work with the soul, or an inability to do so. Someone capable of shifting their focus to God truly believes in him. To believe means to shift your focus. I focus on God and he helps in the situation. I've done this many times and seen how it works. You need to do the same. Stop trying to think about it yourself. Focus on God. He will help your mother.
All right.